Hi, I'm Greg Schaefer, and welcome to the 189th conversation here on the Virtual CISO Moment. Chris Camacho joins us today. He is the co-founder and COO of Abstract Security. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Greg, thanks for having me. Excited to be here with you.
I would love to hear your history. I know we first met way back when we were both working for banks. But tell me about how you first got involved with information security and your path up to being COO and co-founder at Abstract.
Sure. Thanks for asking. So it's quite interesting. I was actually a finance background doing some day trading in the internet bubble days. And then I got out just in time before the bubble burst. My degree was in IT and business management. So I decided to put my resume out there, and lo and behold, a job at Citibank popped up doing basic information security, host-based IDS and the such. That actually led to me joining another financial institution, the World Bank, where I stayed there for a good 13 years and really did everything and anything, including building SOCs and some other fun security projects, where the big banks started to recruit me. So in my case, I went to one of the largest financials for a 3.5-year stint, which I credit to really giving me the opportunity to learn, educate myself, network, and collaborate with many. I got the itch to join a startup, which I did, a company called Flashpoint in the threat intelligence space. Stayed there for a good 8 years. And then we took them to an exit via private equity and beyond. So at that point, I said, I've learned so much here at Flashpoint. I kind of want to start one of my own. So I got together with a great friend of mine, Colby, and we co-founded Abstract Security along with another friend and colleague, Aaron. And here we are. Now we're in this SIEM data pipeline space and trying to really disrupt this industry and navigate some interesting times in the cybersecurity landscape.
So let's dig in a little bit about Abstract. What does Abstract do? What problem are you trying to solve in the information security space?
Yeah, it's really threefold for us. I'll tell you my elevator pitch. One, companies are probably spending too much money on their current SIEM deployment. So to the likes of Sentinel, Splunk, Google SecOps, and maybe even some of the other ones like Exabeam, et cetera. So we can help reduce the spend there by just adding some efficiency, some compression, moving data to different types of storage. And actually, truly, it's a data strategy. In fact, we published a book on this that I'm sure I'll bring up later, but just applying a data strategy. Second, a lot of companies are looking to migrate off their current SIEM to another one, and we can help with that architecture. We actually make it very easy because if you don't do it right, you're probably paying double the cost in that process, and it can really prolong, and you're renewing multiple SIEMs at this point. So we can help with the data migration from, let's say, Splunk to Microsoft Sentinel, or Microsoft Sentinel to Google SecOps, et cetera. And third, we can be their whole data platform. We have that capability. It's what we set out to build. And there's many companies that are coming off some of the smaller SIEMs and coming to us to help them with that.
So you mentioned in that, it's a good elevator speech too. I think that probably was about like 15, 17 floors. So that worked out pretty good.
Okay, good.
You said the first one was spending too much money on the existing SIEM, potentially that there's efficiencies in data storage, data consumption. Immediately, I was starting to think about how regardless of how data is handled and processed by a SIEM, it does still seem to be that often there's way too much information. It's hard to be actionable. It's hard to understand where the risks actually are. Is that where you were getting at as far as what you all at Abstract Security are trying to help with the security aspect?
Yeah, so one of the differentiators for us is we are a very security-focused data pipelines, data platform compared to some of our competitors. You know, we have this team that we call Astro over here. It's a bunch of former Intel analysts, hunters, red teamers, pen testers, et cetera, that are actively using our platform and looking at threats and then going and creating some libraries to help our customers. So we apply a very security-minded focus with our platform, which I think makes it unique. But yes, I think for the longest time, one of the reasons that the next gen SIEM players suffered or didn't work out as well as expected is because they were so focused on just storage and give me all your data, bring it all to me. And they didn't apply, like I've mentioned, this data strategy. So all it did was just become a very expensive repository that was very, very hard to query and search on, where we are applying different ideas and different strategies in order to make that more efficient and really help the customer understand their architecture and the data.
Now, I am a little disappointed, though. I haven't heard the buzzword, AI.
AI. Yeah.
Are you using any sort of AI to help with that?
Yeah, and you're right. That I probably should have led with that in my elevator piece. Everybody mentions it, and it is the hot topic. Yes, we do have AI. The way we've incorporated AI, at least for abstract, is through this concept of the abstract security engineer, or ACE, inside the platform. That's there listening and learning and actively monitoring as to what queries and searches you're doing, so it can recommend ahead of time for you. It's getting more and more creative and learning all the time, but that's our concept of AI in the platform. We've also been discussing other ways that we can lean in on how to support, especially some of the smaller, like SMB, mid-market organizations that don't have all these analysts who look at all the alerts, how we can really summarize alerts, or maybe even start taking some action on some of these alerts on their behalf.
So you mentioned a few moments ago, and I definitely did want to touch on it. Let's talk about the book. I did not get a chance to review it prior to this, so I'm starting out with knowing virtually nothing. I know you've been promoting it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the idea really came along as to what I said earlier, that most of the next-gen SIEM companies just were so focused on, give me all your data from your current SIEM and bring it to us. Nothing wrong with that until you start trying to query or do something with that data, and then they come to find out that it makes it very hard. It's too much data. There's no structure around it. There's no architecture around it. So we set out to really identify the problem, which we felt we did. Data strategy, it's not applicable, or no one was talking about it. But at the same time, we, Abstract, did not want to be the authors or the sole source of this subject. So what did we do? We took a couple people on our team. We fielded the market. We brought in industry experts from some of the largest companies in the world, some people that live and breathe data strategy, and they literally co-authored a book together. We just supported it more from the financing and getting an editor, and then publishing the book, and then honestly letting it be free for everybody. It's not gated. Anybody can download it. Anybody can use it and read it. And we're taking input from the community as well. So when version 2, version 3, et cetera, come on, we can continue updating and adapting the book as necessary over time. I actually got my copy, a hard copy, here the other day. We're printing hard copies for friendlies that actually just reach out and ask. So if you're interested, please reach out, and we'll get you a copy of the book.
And they can there's a URL they can go to for this.
Yep, there is a URL. I'll be happy to share with you at the end of the podcast. So
yeah, we'll put it. I will do my best to try to remember to put it in the show notes. I learned a long time ago that it's better for me not to say I will definitely do it, because inevitably that is a jinx. It means I will forget to do it.
I'm the same way. So
I will endeavor to ensure that it's in there. Now, you pinged on something which is, of course, a passion to me. My passion in this part of my career for many years now, and the reason really for the podcast is not only to help support others in our field, but to help small and mid-sized businesses. And I was glad to hear that you said that some of the elements of what you're doing at Abstract Security with your product actually does support SMBs. But let me first start out that you've had a long, varied career. I'm not trying to say you're old. I'm just saying you've had a long, varied career. And you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot, but from your perspective today, what do you think is the most significant threat to small and mid-sized business information security?
Yeah, as I mentioned in my introduction, so I had the privilege of working at some of the largest financial institutions of the world. When I went and joined my first startup, Flashpoint, I quickly learned that not every company has the budget, the teams, especially down market, like those financial institutions. So I actually took it upon myself to learn and adapt and really put myself in their shoes, right? In some cases, we're talking a CISO is literally hands-on keyboard, doing pen testing, doing IDS changes, doing security awareness programs, and all of the above. So how do companies like abstract support? We understand that some of these companies probably have hired a managed services. So maybe we can help the managed services or help the CISO or the team, the small team, really figure out what threats they should be focused on. And quite honestly, the threats that they should be focused on are, at the end of the day, very simple. To me, it comes down to threefold. Always patch your stuff, security awareness so people don't double click, and then reacting or responding to incidents as fast as possible. Those three fundamental things, no matter what size of company, are going to be what deliver and let you evolve from a security program, small and large.
I think one of the challenges that I've seen with regards to working with small and mid-sized businesses over the years is getting them convinced that security is something that they need to pay more attention to. Depending upon the day, my opinion on this may vary, but it seems like sometimes that SMBs are more interested, particularly when you're dealing with startups. To your point, of more making sure that they comply with stuff because they've got a ton of other things that they need to deal with. And then when you get to that more mid-sized business or small mid-sized business, say 200-300 people, it's still difficult to get them engaged in understanding that information security is important to their business. Any ideas of how to convince the C-suite and the board of directors for these types of businesses that it is important? Because the position I'm coming from, I've never worked for a large global firm, and I'm going to assume, and maybe I'm wrong and you'll catch me on this, is that a larger global firm, they already understand that. They already have it baked in, but the smaller businesses don't. Any ideas?
Yeah, and you're right. The global firms have it baked in from the CEO all the way down. The smaller orgs, I feel they're getting the pressure to enhance and evolve their security program twofold. One, what they read about in the news. I think just this week there was a big discussion about an Oracle breach that everyone's worried about, especially if you use Oracle infrastructure and you don't have a proper security program. You probably don't know the answer and you're scrambling. So that's important. Two, most of these smaller orgs are probably servicing larger orgs. And the larger orgs' biggest threat these days are third-party security. What do my partners, what do the people that I work with, if they're not secure, does that expose me? So they're getting pressure legally and from the security policies. In order to do business with us, you must comply to at least these standards. And then third, honestly, I think a lot of these small orgs probably hear from their networks or from their peers or even competitors, like a company had a ransomware issue or a business email compromise, so sent money to the wrong place. Those have big operational and financial impact, and they don't want to be that company. So then they start looking at what they need to do within their security program from the top down.
Oh yeah, we've all, I'm sure, dealt with what the CEO has heard from at a conference. They
Correct.
come back and they're like, all these questions and everything, and it almost seems to be that the more that they're interested in something, it has to deal more with the marketing for the particular exploit as opposed to the exploit's risk itself. I'm thinking Heartbleed because that was the first one I think I remember that actually had like an icon or a logo associated with it. But you're right. It's I wanted to get back to third-party risk management. It seems to me, again, that our industry, we tend to sometimes focus more on the larger businesses, and you made a good point that sometimes the smaller businesses, they're feeders of services to the larger businesses. When you see a typical breach, like take for example, I think Bank of America last year or the year before, I can't remember when, I think it was 23 to 24, they had some breach that was facilitated by a third party. And all you heard on the outcropping in the media was that Bank of America's third-party risk management program had some issues, that they should have caught this. What I didn't hear was attention on ensuring that the posture of the smaller business was up to snuff. My question, where I'm trying to get at, and very slowly, is: do you see in our industry, from your perspective, that maybe we're not paying enough attention to SMBs, or maybe I'm a little too biased?
No, I truly think we're not paying enough attention to SMBs. I would say that the larger companies, think Cisco, CrowdStrike, et cetera, Palo Alto, definitely are selling into the SMBs and helping them protect, and hopefully applying all of their capabilities and services at the right price points. But then all these newer companies, I honestly think, I'm not going to say ignore, but put aside the SMB market because they don't see dollars there to grow their revenue, to excel and move, and obviously succeed. And that's a shame, because there's a lot of capabilities and a lot of products that SMB markets need. Now, I think the market in general feels like the SMB market is really handled by various MSSPs, so managed services providers. Mm-hmm. And while that may or may not be true, I also feel that MSSPs can only do so much, right? And back to what you just said as well, any financial institution, any large retailer, when one of their third party or suppliers, no matter how small, even if it's a 20-person company, but it's critical to what they're doing, has a breach, and it had a various connection into something around getting paid on the invoices, so it had a connection to the accounting system, and that puts that larger company at exposure. That's why these smaller SMBs need to be serviced, I guess, audited and looked at more deeper, because they have much more impact into the larger ecosystem than people can think of.
So CMMC is doing that with their requirements for the gov space. I'm hearing that you think that perhaps maybe more regulation. One of the things, and I know you can agree with this, most likely from being from finance as well, is that the financial services industry, their security was usually quite good no matter what size of the institution you were. I'm generalizing. But that was because of the regulatory impact and the fact that your regulators, the FDIC, OCC, and CUA, they had skin in the game. They guaranteed the deposits and all of that. But you don't see that in some industries. Do you think that some sort of an oversight, without being smothering, is one direction we should be looking at?
I think it's a direction. And another thing is, like, we, right off the gate, as an example, went out to be SOC 2 compliant. Because since we are in the security space selling security software, we knew that the procurement teams would ask, hey, at minimum, what have you done from a security perspective? And SOC 2 compliance helps check that box, so they can say, okay, well, these guys have passed that. Perhaps in the SMB market, there should be something similar, or even SOC 2 compliance would be more than enough to at least give some perception that at the basic minimum, they have some security tools, they have some awareness, and they have some ongoing education in and around security, so that when they go and do business with not even the largest companies in the world, mid-sized companies, right? There's, okay, these guys have gone and taken the time to get SOC 2 compliance, and we're going to do business with these guys rather than a competitor that may be a little more expensive or a little less expensive, but they have no security, right? So we're going to take the higher priced solution, because they've invested in security, and we feel that that's going to reduce our risk from an incident happening.
All right, not to go too far in the weeds, but I do have one other question with that I want your opinion on. The SOC 2 process, there is a lot of rumblings within the InfoSec industry that it's become too maybe diluted isn't the right word, but maybe not as effective. It's become too much focused on compliance and a lot of automation with it, as opposed to the measuring of a security program. Are we potentially creating a problem? Because there is, I should step back, there is definitely more of a push for smaller businesses to, like you guys did, to go for that SOC 2 attestation, because it's like that drives revenue. That's what prospects are looking for. are we taking it too far, and as an industry focusing too much on compliance and making sure that you check all the requirements within the common criteria, or the criteria, I should say, in general,
Mhm.
or well, I guess that's my question. I worry about this sometimes. I worry about that. We always preach, and we've done this for years, security doesn't equal compliance, or compliance doesn't equal security. Are we kind of creating a problem by trying to get SMBs to comply and to reach that sort of attestation and all that?
And that's a good discussion, and something we could debate
That's
is,
why I didn't want to go too far down this path.
yeah, and I mean, is it at least a start, right? So
Mhm.
companies can start thinking, from a compliance perspective or a checkbox perspective of some of the basics. And I agree with you. If we go down too far in that rabbit hole, is it going to create more confusion, or not do anything at all and they're not even having security discussions, right?
Mhm.
Or should there be some more operational focused program that SMB markets, for example, have to adopt or can begin adopting, that someone creates, right, that is more focused on, do you at the minimum have this security architecture or this security product, or looking at your events via a product like ours, because that's going to be required in case there's an incident. At least you can go backwards in time and recreate events. So yeah, to me, having SOC 2 has helped even our organization, because we're training everybody as they get onboarded. We're applying basic controls, at the very least, some of the most basic controls. So it helps push us to be security compliant. But I don't see it as anything that, as you expand it further, would do much more damage. I think it may do more good than you're thinking.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I the only place where I get a little hung up is if they're solely focusing on that. One of the things that I've seen that works with the SMB market is that, and this is just I'm going to use an example of folks that this one startup that we're bringing through their SOC 2 right now. But when we started working with them a year and a half ago, it was to build some sort of a security program because people were asking them questions that they didn't know how to answer.
Yeah.
And I remember telling them back in November of 2023 that we're going to work on this, but we're going to work on it with the goal that eventually you're going to want to go down this SOC 2 process. And I had to explain it to them. For about 10 months, they didn't care anything about SOC 2. The 11th month in, they got more requests from prospects.
Yeah.
By that point in time, we had built up the security program to the point where now it was just a matter of kind of patching a few holes here and there, no pun intended. So I agree with you in that a lot of times, even just having that as a requirement will be an impetus for them to start a security program as well.
Yes. To me, that's a start, and at least it helps, right? Start somewhere, so it gives that impetus,
as opposed to having nothing and getting a checklist from their cyber insurer and they just check it without even reading the box.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and that's and I won't go down that rabbit hole either. But at least the security industry or the cyber insurance industry is doing better with regards to not just requiring that; they actually are requiring more intensive proof with regards to certain.
There's one other example, just to I'll bring it up, especially in SMB market. I would say the SMB market, if they're doing credit card transactions, which many of them probably are, have to be PCI compliant to a certain extent. And I've seen, because I get asked as a security expert from these small SMB companies, hey, I'm getting this questionnaire from my merchant and I need to be doing this, and that. What does it mean? And I tell them what it means. They're like, well, we don't do it, but I need to have my fees reduced. So they're just checking the boxes as of yes, not even studying what it means, which goes back to if there was other ways to better educate them. I'm not going to say make it more mandatory, but again, that's where SOC 2 compliance could help. Then they would have to be forced to spend some money in some of the very basics of information security.
I don't know about you, but all this always stresses me out because it's it seems like that. That's why one of the reasons why I ask folks sometimes is well, tell me why you got involved with this industry, because it can be very stressful. There is no end.
It is, yeah.
It's and you have to. I think that when I came to the realization that it's not about yes or no, it's about managing risk. That was the big light bulb in my head 15, 20 years ago, something like that. But you have to deal with the stress in a way that's positive, because otherwise it'll eat at you, it'll eat at your abilities, and then you can't be the most effective person for the role that you're in. So I always encourage folks that do something to decompress, which is the word I use. So what's one of the things, Chris, you do to decompress from the stresses of not only information security, but also being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I'm right at the sweet spot where I have two boys, 16 and 13, that are keeping me really busy. After I stop working in the day, and then during the weekends, it's fulfilled with sports. So luckily for me, that's a big de-stressor, honestly. The other thing we like to do as a family is travel. So I like to travel quite a lot. In between work, family, and travel, that's pretty much how I fulfill my, work-life balance. And it's been working for me.
Well, that's great. So long, I mean, you find something that works and you de-stress, then that's wonderful. And I think that's, if I had ever kept stats, I think spending time with family is probably the highest one, the most. And I love to hear that, because we can often have a tendency to spend too much time away from our family when we get involved. A lot of us are, I think, type A personalities.
Yeah.
So what's in your future? What's coming down the road?
Yeah, so we're just in the beginning phases of growing and really exploding abstract security over here. So that's going to keep me busy for quite a while. After this, I keep telling people I may have one more startup in me, depending on the outcome of this. And then from there, hopefully just more or less relax or do more advisory or investing type of work. But I always want to have at least a pulse in cybersecurity. I've seen many of my mentors, many folks that once they've had their exits, continue advising or continue supporting the information security field just because of the mission or because of the passion.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing not only what abstract security is going to be doing in the future, but also what you're going to be doing in the future. Really appreciate you spending some time. It was great catching up, and best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Thanks
Everybody,
for having me.
stay secure.